Hey, howdy, hey, people that love being in the 100 Acre Wood, Wolfman47 Dash here, and yes, today I'm going to be finally doing another Let's Talk that's not on the weekend, but instead within the week, because it's because there's nothing really latest that's come to this franchise, just that is celebrating an anniversary this year, so I thought now would be the better time to talk about it. So as we all know, Winnie the Pooh is a beloved children's book or children's book series, as I understand it, by, if I can find the author on Wikipedia, by A.A. Mullane and E.H. Shepard, which is basically just stories about Winnie the Pooh. Since the first and probably only book came out, I'm not sure if it's a book series, but anyway, Disney took the reins of the franchise and since then have made a lot of films, video games, TV shows, and then it went straight back into the domain, and now we're getting a horror franchise. Funny how things work out, you know. So yeah. So today going to be reviewing not all but most of the Winnie the Pooh stuff. So I'm going to be talking about some of the films, some of the TV shows, and also all the stuff that's on Disney Plus, basically, that I can find, or everything that's on Disney Plus, and also other things that I've seen and or played. I've not been able to play many of the video games in time for this review, so if I do get around to playing those games for the channel, I'll review them there and then. And apart from that, this is basically going to be the main Winnie the Pooh thing. Obviously, the franchise has been featured in just like with other Disney franchises, it has been featured in other big Disney games, you know, when they have all sorts of different franchises together. So I'm only going to be focusing on the Winnie the Pooh ones, and again, as I say, there'll be stuff that I'll be missing out, so I do apologise, but I will get around to those at a later date if there's more requests for it. And just like with the Looney Tunes video, I do have a lot on today, so I will probably or almost certainly be doing this in parts. So, you know, do a bit of recording and go and work, come back and do more. So let's see how we get on. So first of all, let's talk about the 1997 film, The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. So this is an animated musical anthology film produced by Walt Disney Productions and distributed by Buena Vista Distribution. It was originally released as a double bill with The Littlest Horse Thieves in March 1977. This is basically the film that made Disney turn it into a franchise and has since spawned lots of things ever since. It's largely just three animated features that Walt Disney himself worked on, all combined together with a sort of thing to sort of bridge the gap between stories. And it's kind of like breaking the fourth wall sort of film, because you got a narrator narrating the stories, and you got all these three different stories, each featuring the characters from the Winnie the Pooh franchise. And they somehow find a way to sort of interfere with the book, trying to get to different parts of it and everything, which is quite amusing. And I think it is well animated. As I understand, I think it was the last thing that Walt Disney himself worked on before passing. Because he did do three features, but then they decided to make it into one film, which is what they did here. Disney have been known to do this many times. This was probably the first time that they've done this, where they've realised the potential films and decided to merge several stories into one film. Like, I know they did this for a few TV shows that were originally supposed to happen, but then ultimately didn't. So they decided to put all the episodes together into one film. I'm not sure if it was the case with this one, because I know the Disney family were initially skeptical of having the Disney Channel and show different programs, but it became popular. So yeah. This is one of the few films that has received 100% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I can definitely see why, because it's well animated, not too many problems with it, and it's just lovely. There's way too many Disney things nowadays that aren't like sort of peaceful and calm, and this is a very much peaceful and calm. It sort of gives you a sense of childhood inside you in a way, I guess. Do I think it's a perfect film? I think there's probably things that could work a little bit better, but otherwise I thought it was an alright film. So I'm going to give The Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, even though it's only got 3 adventures specifically, but I think bridging the gap between them, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. So the very first Winnie the Pooh film I saw in the cinema is this next film, and originally my plan was to go see it with my babysitter, because I was young, very little at the time, as was my sister, but we ended up seeing the Pokemon the first movie instead. But then I did eventually get around to watching this with my cousins, and it is the Tigger movie. So this was released in the year 2000. American animated musical comedy drama produced by Walt Disney Television Animation, written and directed by John Falkenstein, obviously being the second theatrical Winnie the Pooh feature film after The Many Adventures. Following Pooh's sidekick Tigger, hence the name, searching for his family tree and other Tiggers like himself. Okay, so yeah, it's kind of one of those films where a character is trying to find out if he's got like a family out there, because he feels like he's the only one in existence, and yada yada yada. You get the idea with that. I've seen this sort of idea happen before, because Muppets from Space was very similar to that, and I know there's been a few others as well where they're trying to figure out if there's like a family or whatever, and I don't remember it all that well since watching it, but from what I do remember of it, I thought it was alright for a Tigger film. Because Tigger is as I understand it, a popular character in comparison to the other Winnie the Pooh characters. Honestly, I think all of them are quite popular, but Tigger particularly, I think, is a very popular character, because he's sort of has a sort of cheekiness to him, being cheeky and sort of trying to sort of interfere with things and just get a bit hyperactive and everything. He's kind of like that child you may know who's a very hyperactive child, likes to bounce around and everything, and yeah, it's like that. But anyway, so the Tigger movie, just based on memory alone, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. So a film I did see in preparation for this video, which I did see on Disney Plus, is Piglet's Big Movie. So this was released in 2003. It's an animated musical comedy film produced by the Japanese arm of Disney Toon Studios. For those who don't know, Disney Toon Studios were the ones responsible for making all those pretty bad direct-to-home media sequels that nobody needed, but they made it anyway because they needed the money. Disney were desperate and all that. And then the disgraced John Lasseter took over, told them basically shut down that studio so that Disney can focus purely on their own in-house animation studio and Pixar. But anyway, so Japanese arm of Disney Toon Studios, with animation provided by Walt Disney Animation Japan, featuring the characters from the Winnie the Pooh books. Third theatrically released film, and in the film, Piglet is basically ashamed of being small and clumsy, and wanders off into 100 Acre Wood, which leads all of his friends to form a search party to find him. So I don't know if I'd say this is similar to the Tigger movie, but I guess it's kind of similar in the sense that it's trying to give another character sort of a main focus, sort of give him some character development and everything. It's based on the plot is based on 5 of the stories from the books, in which Piglet meets a heffalump, in which Kanga and Beru come to the forest and Piglet has a bath, and in which Christopher Robin leads an expedition to the North Pole, as well as various other stories as well. Yeah, I didn't feel as although this is a little bit better than the Tigger movie, I do sort of feel a sense that they sort of didn't try hard enough to make it different, because it just kind of feels like the Tigger movie all over again, but this time focused on Piglet, because Piglet is trying to find his place, and in a previous film Tigger was trying to find his place, so it's like one of those films. But nevertheless, I thought it was alright, and I can't think of anything good or bad about it apart from it's just too similar to the Tigger movie, so I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 as well. So this next film I do remember very well, because I did actually watch and didn't have it play in the background like I've done with lots of these things when I do these videos. But anyway, next is Pooh's Heffalump movie. So this was a 2005 film. Again, American musical comedy film, animated once again by Walt Disney Animation Japan, featuring characters from Winnie the Pooh, being the 5th animated one, in this one, the gang from the 100 Acre Wood decide that they want to find this Heffalump, and things transpire. Some of them want to actually capture the Heffalump and sort of get the thrill of it, whereas Roo is just determined to capture the Heffalump to prove himself to Rabbit, and then he finds the Heffalump, and then they form sort of a close bond and everything. And it's kind of basically a buddy kind of film. So first of all, great that they decided to do something different with that. Not have it too similar, but I guess it sort of has a similarity in the sense that it's another character trying to prove himself, and also interesting that this is actually the final film role for Roo, although I'm not sure if that's true or not. I don't know, but anyway. So yeah, it was an interesting film, lovely, peaceful, and everything as it's supposed to be. I thought it was probably the best one of the three films by Disney Toon by Disney Toon Studios to be what it is, because it's trying not to be too similar to the previous two films, and I think it's great, and I think it is good fun, so a 9 out of 10 for that one. Which brings us on to the 2011 film known simply as Winnie the Pooh. So this was released in 2011, this time produced by Walt Disney Animation Studios for the first time by them since the Many Adventures film. Directed by Steven Anderson and Don Hall, with Jim Cummings reprising his voice roles as Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, and Travis Oates reprising his voice role as Piglet. Voice cast also includes Tom Kenny, Craig Ferguson, Bud Luckey, and Kristen Anderson Lopez. The film is narrated by the legendary John Cleese, and the film in the film, the residents of the 100 Acre Wood embark on a quest to save Christopher Robin from an imaginary culprit, while Pooh deals with a hunger for honey. So yeah, it's basically another, I guess it's kind of an attempt to sort of trying to be an original film rather than trying to be based on anything to do with the short stories, the stories from the books. I saw this, and here in the UK, even though it is made by Walt Disney Animation Studios, it's not part of the animation canon, by which I mean it doesn't have like a number to it. It's kind of separate, it's its own thing, just like Dinosaur is. Because here in the UK, and I've said this before, some films that you may have in the US that are part of the canon are not canon here in the UK. So the majority of it is largely the same, but we don't have Dinosaur in the canon. We don't have this film in the canon. We've got The Wild in the canon, bizarrely. But yeah, that's how it is. So this film, I think, out of the films, is probably the second. Is probably like the best film in like the second place. So it's still inferior to The Many Adventures, but it does at least try to be original, not be too focused on one particular character, one specific element, and so forth. But yeah, for what it was, I thought it was good. Yeah, and it says Roo was it was in his final film on the previous film, but that's rubbish because Roo appears in this as well. So I don't know why Wikipedia says that, but anyway. So Winnie the Pooh 2011, I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10. And I'm gonna do one more film, and then I'm gonna have to go because I do have to work today. So next is the film Christopher Robin. So this was released in 2018, and for the first time ever, it's the first, and as I understand it, only live action film by Disney, part of the Winnie the Pooh franchise, until they bought Fox, and then one of their films happens to have a connection to it. But anyway, so this was released in 2018. It's a live action animated fantasy comedy drama film inspired by the children's book series. And it's a live action / CGI follow up to the Disney franchise, so it's not technically a live action remake, let's say, but it is a live action film nonetheless. After the films have been sort of animated up until this point. It was directed by Mark Foster, from a screenplay by Alex Ross Perry, Tom McCarthy, and Alison Schroeder, with Ewan McGregor starring as the title character Christopher Robin, alongside Hayley Atwell as his wife Evelyn, with the voices of Jim Cummings reprising his roles from previous things, Nick Mohammed as Piglet, and Brad Garrett as Eeyore. And the story follows Christopher Robin, now an adult who has lost his sense of imagination, only to be reunited with his childhood friend Winnie the Pooh, whom he must escort back to the 100 Acre Wood to find his friends. So this is kind of one of those journey kind of films where it's meant to be like showing Christopher Robin as an adult who's just lost his imagination, and then suddenly the characters that he knows and loves return to him, and because his characters have kind of entered a world that's not their own and is very a dangerous world, he tries to bring them back to their world. It's kind of one of those sorts of films. Fictional characters come into the real world and then realizing they need to get back to their own world and getting the help of someone to do that. Although in this case, the person in question actually does have a connection to them because they have visited him before. I think in terms of how Disney's live action films have gone as of late, let's be honest, they're not all been great. I think there's some that are probably better than others, but the majority of them are not very good, and there's just elements of it that does put people off. And for this film, while I do appreciate that they try to do something different with the characters, and they do still look and feel like the fictional characters, Rabbit just looks like a sort of weird CGI bunny. Winnie the Pooh looks fine. Tigger I didn't think needed to be lighter than he was, because I think the darker orange worked on him just fine. And the other characters, they all look familiar and everything, but if you're making this film, Disney, I think you could have just been better off just doing a Looney Tunes Back in Action or Space Jam like film. Use traditionally animated characters and go to the real world rather than just CGI characters, because no offense, but your CGI ability has not been great with these live action films as of late. So yeah, had to be said. So yeah, but I get why this film existed. It just wanted to sort of give us a different take on the whole thing with Christopher Robin, growing up and everything. It's, if you're seeking childhood magic, you'll find this here. And I thought, for what it was okay. So yeah, not much else to say. So I'm just going to give it a 7 out of 10. And I'm going to call it quits now, because as I said, I do need to go to work, and I do have to travel quite a bit today to work this time. So yeah, I will see you in a bit.
Much later.
Alright, I am back, so let us carry on. So we went up to Christopher Robin, so next up is Pooh's Grand Adventure, The Search for Christopher Robin. So this was the first of a few direct-to-home media films. So this one is a musical adventure comedy drama film, co-written, co-produced and directed by Carl Gures. and the film follows Winnie the Pooh and friends on a journey to find and rescue their friend Christopher Robin from a thing called the Skull. And I have to use quotation marks because that's what it says on Wikipedia. Along the way, the group confronts their own insecurities throughout their search, facing and conquering them in a series of events where they are forced to act beyond their own known limits, thus discovering their true potential. So, completely original story this time, not based on anything from the books or stories or whatever. So good on Disney for thinking about doing something original with Winnie the Pooh and pals. And yeah, I think the more originality they do, the better, I'd say. However, it does sort of lose some charm along the way, I think. So we all like the sort of innocent charm and so forth of Winnie the Pooh and friends and so forth. And I guess the fact that they were trying to sort of establish that each character has their own insecurities is something we have seen before previously, and we do kind of have an idea of them. Like Pooh wants honey, Rabbit just wants things to not get messy, Tigger wants to bounce all the time and all this jazz. But it's not really my favourite of the Pooh films, but I will give it credit for at least trying to do something original with it. Just didn't work this time. But anyway, so overall, not a terrible film, mind you. But if you're wanting something that's more to do with Pooh, you're probably better off finding something that's actually based on the books. But if you want something a bit original with Pooh, then this will do you just fine. It's not a bad film, but I can't really say but it's not bad, neither good. So bit of a mixed bag for me, but I thought it was alright. So 6 out of 10. Nearly said 3. Sorry. So next up we have one of the various TV shows that were shown on Disney Channel and its sort of sub channels, let's say. And the first of them is The Book of Pooh. So this is a preschool educational children's television series. So this is a series that's not really for my age group, and there is probably a few more as well that I'm going to talk about. And just to be clear, because I'm not the right audience, the right age group for it. Don't assume that my views are law. It's just I'm watching it as an adult now, and so yeah, just leave it. I'll just leave it there. So this was broadcast on the Playhouse Disney block on the Disney Channel in the US, but it might be different here in the UK. Third television series to feature characters from the Disney franchise, based on the works from the books. The other two were live action. The other two ones were kind of sort of live action and animated, which I'll talk about later. And I think this one, from what I can remember, is a bit of a interesting one, because all the characters are portrayed as sort of Muppet-like characters. Like they walk like puppets and everything, and they also sort of come across like they're talking like rap, like the Muppet kind of character, especially with the musical songs where they go, yeah, like that. So it's got a little bit of a creepy factor if you're not that into Muppets and puppets. And also it's also quite dated with its visuals, because on the offset it kind of looks like an old PC video game, and then you realise it's not an old PC video game. It's just a green screen with the sort of Muppet puppet characters being real, and it doesn't feature all of the Winnie the Pooh characters, just Winnie the Pooh himself, Tigger, Piglet, Rabbit, Eeyore, Owl, Kangaroo, and a few other characters as well. So yeah, and hopefully I am getting this information correct, because I am often known to get things mixed up. So yeah, it's not too bad in terms of educational shows, because it kind of has a sort of Bear in a Big Blue House vibe to it, in a way. And for what it was, I thought it was alright, but again, I'm not the right age group for it, but it's definitely not like very patronising or infuriating like most things for infant school, I should say, because that's what we call preschool here in the UK. So yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 10 only because I'm not the right age group for it, but at the same time I thought it was alright for what it was and what it tried to do. So yeah. So next is another direct-to-video animated musical film, this time known as A Very Merry Pooh Year, which, as you may have guessed, is a Christmas film. So this was produced by Walt Disney Television Animation, and it features the 1991 Christmas television special Winnie the Pooh and Christmas 2, as well as a new film Happy Pooh Year, which one of these I think I am going to talk about, but I'm not sure. Or not, I guess. Actually, hold on. Yeah. Anyway, so A Very Merry Pooh Year. So on Christmas Eve, Winnie the Pooh's having trouble setting up his Christmas tree, like you do. Pooh slips and falls and breaks the shelf holding a present made for Piglet. I'm not going to go through the whole plot or anything, because it's basically the inhabitants of the 100 Acre Wood are sort of trying to deal with Christmas, the ups, the downs, and everything. And it's not sort of like being like a Christmas Carol, another take on a Christmas Carol, as far as I can remember. And it's got some good musical numbers to it and everything. So yeah. Basically, it's another Disney franchise that's so popular enough it has its own Christmas special, and this is basically it, the Christmas special. And it's charming, it's innocent, and everything, just as you'd expect from Winnie the Pooh. So, a 7 out of 10 for this one. Now, I just want to make sure I'm not. Yeah, okay. So next is Springtime with Roo. So again, this is a direct-to-home media film, and this is the Easter special for Winnie the Pooh. Produced by Disney Toon Studios, animated by Toon City Animation. It features the characters from the franchise, based on the characters from the books, and this time it's loosely based on A Christmas Carol. This one is like the one that's loosely based on A Christmas Carol. Only this time it's Easter, and Rabbit is the Scrooge character. So from what I remember, everyone's looking forward to spending spring sort of during Easter time, and Rabbit's decided he wants to do spring cleaning because it's spring cleaning day. Everyone's not happy with it, and so he gets visited by spirits and yada yada yada. You get the idea with that, except instead of a Christmas Carol, it's, I guess, an Easter Carol you could call it. But yeah, it's basically Winnie the Pooh doing a Christmas Carol but set in Easter. So original on two fronts, that it's trying to be an original take on A Christmas Carol, but also trying not to be directly like A Christmas Carol, sort of doing its own thing, which is great. And I thought it was okay for what it was. If you're used to Christmas Carol, you'll get it just fine. And I think Rabbit's the perfect choice to be a Scrooge-like character, because he does come across as quite Scrooge in a way, albeit unintentionally. So Springtime with Roo, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. Now we move on to the New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, which is a animated television series. So not for a particular target audience, just more for older kids, or sort of mid-range kids, I guess you could say. So it's an American television series, animated television series produced by Walt Disney Television Animation, again based on the franchise. And The New Adventures was the first time a major Disney character that headlined an animated made-for-television series, as well as the first Disney television series based on a major animated film. So that's a lot of firsts for Disney there. The cartoon premiered with a limited run on the Disney Channel in 1988, and then 9 months later it moved to APC as part of the Saturday morning lineup in the US. Obviously it'll be different here in the UK, if it did come to the UK, that is. New episodes continued until 1991, proving popular with children and older fans. It remained a staple on television in the United States for nearly 2 decades. Publications ranging from blah, 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 blah. It got very positive reviews and other things. And yeah, well, I'll just gloss over that. So the series depicts the everyday lives of Christopher Robin and the companions from the 100 Acre Wood. It's not a straightforward adaptation of it in that Christopher Robin and the characters are British and all that. It was actually an Americanized version of Pooh and Friends, and yeah, most episodes deal with strong messages about all sorts of different things. So it's kind of one of those series that, despite targeted for people of all ages, it does have a few life messages to it, which I think is good. And despite it being Americanized and all that, you know, I thought it was okay, and it's definitely sort of made its mark in on television for sure. I've only seen like a couple of episodes, and those episodes were not really set in the 100 Acre Wood. And in fact, I actually remember watching it when I was watching at least one, maybe two episodes of it in Australia and America in my trips in the few trips I've been to those places. I've only been to America once, and that was to the state of California, and to meet my mum's pen pal. I've been to Australia more times because I've got family living there. So yeah. So, New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, even though I've not seen all the episodes, I've seen enough to sort of say that I think it's an alright series, and it's basically your typical Disney series that's based on a feature film, and just is continuing the adventures of characters. Whether you consider it canon or not is up to you. But yeah, it's alright despite being Americanized, so I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. So next is the Valentine's special, which is Winnie the Pooh, a Valentine for You, and this is quite literally a sort of TV special, because it's 22 minutes long as opposed to the other two specials, which were much longer. So it's a Valentine's Day special based on the stories, originally broadcast on ABC in the US from 1999, released on home media after that, and then became part of Disney Plus. Features original song "Place in the Heart" by Michael and Patty Silvershire, and it was the last TV special produced by the Disney Television Animation to air on ABC until Mickey Saves Christmas. Aired in a simulcast on ABC, Disney Channel, Disney Junior, and Disney XD in November of 2022. It also marks the final role of Paul Winchell, voice of Tigger, who retired from voice acting soon after completing his work. Good on him, you know. Or well, maybe not retired, but more redeployed, as one of my dad's friends would put it. Yeah, it's a Valentine's special with the Winnie the Pooh, with the cast of Winnie the Pooh, albeit it's much shorter at 22 minutes. So you know they don't like spend too long on it this time, and I think. When you've got a story that doesn't need to be too long, I think that's for the best. And I remember finding some enjoyment out it in its sort of sweet innocence and everything, and also just characters sort of trying to understand what Valentine's Day is all about, which is good. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10 as well. Now, next one is probably the one series that is probably the one series aimed for an infant school audience that I didn't particularly like, because this is the one that needs audience participation. And as I've said previously, I absolutely despise shows that have audience participation, but I do understand why they do it, because when you're younger, you know, you're going to be oblivious and everything. So yeah. Anyway, so My Friends Tigger and Pooh. So this was a television series that aired on Playhouse Disney Block and Disney Channel in the US. Don't know if it's the same here in the UK. Once again, it's based on the Winnie the Pooh franchise. It features Winnie the Pooh and Winnie the Pooh, Tigger, and other characters from the various adaptations of the series, introducing two new characters, Darby, an imaginative 6-year-old girl who's the one that kind of leads the audience participation, do something, yeah, and a dog Buster. Darby is the main protagonist as an amateur sleuth. She teams up with Winnie the Pooh and Tigger to form the Super Sleuths, a trio that investigates mysteries in 100 Acre Wood with the usual audience participation stuff that you're used to when you want an infant audience and all that. So Chloe Grace Moretz, oh gosh, is the voice of Darby in the US, and here in the UK it's Kimberly Berg, with D. Bradley Baker as Buster, Jim Cummings reprising his roles of Winnie the Pooh and Tigger, and various other people sort of chipping in here and there. Yeah, as I say, it's not for me, because audience participation things, no matter how good or bad they may be to most people, I don't like them very much, because because as an adult, I find them quite patronising and just frustrating. So unfortunately, I'm just going to but I'm going to be fair to it, and I'm going to give it a 4 out of 10 because I'm not the target audience, and I'll say no more than that. So next up we have, if I can find it, Playdate with Winnie the Pooh, and I think there might be another one after that. Oh no, maybe not. So Playdate with Winnie the Pooh is all the Winnie the Pooh characters are all children, and they kind of sort of feel like they're trying to be different to the traditional Winnie the Pooh characters, and I feel it's kind of weird seeing these characters sort of younger, but it's not too patronising like the previous thing, and honestly it's not too bad. The animation is similar to Spider-Verse, in which it's sort of stilted frame rates and everything. So yes, Disney actually did something similar to Spider-Verse. That's not like a feature film. That's unfortunately is not like a feature film. But anyway, so Crazy Adventures, all a few minutes long. So you could probably get through a whole season easily in one day of that. But yeah, they were sort of charming, fun, and everything. Even if the characters are a bit weird looking and so forth. So me and Winnie the Pooh, I'm going to give I'll give it a 6 out of 10, and then we've got Me and Winnie the Pooh, which is basically a continuation of it, doing the sort of shenanigans and so forth. So I'm not going to waste too much time on that, and I'm also going to give that a sort of 7 out of 10. And that brings us nicely on to the 3 things that are technically not Disney, but the first one technically is now that they've bought Fox. But anyway, so the first of the 3 things that's not technically done by Disney is Goodbye Christopher Robin. So Goodbye Christopher Robin is a biopic from 2017 about the Winnie the Pooh creator A.A. Milne, played by Domhnall Gleeson. And his family, particularly his son Christopher, played by played by Dexter and Sonny Hyman when he's 3 years old, and Will Thiessen as an 8-year-old, and Alex Lawther as an 18-year-old. Particularly son Christopher. It's directed by Simon Curtis, written by Frank Cottrell-Bryce and Simon Vaughn. And also, in addition to Domhnall Gleeson and the various people playing Christopher Robin, it also stars Margot Robbie as the mother and Kelly MacDonald as the nanny. So a bit of an all-star cast, and I do think and like many people, I find Margot Robbie very attractive. Domhnall Gleeson, I don't find attractive because he kind of gives off a sort of nerd vibe, but he's alright for an actor from what I've seen him in, and likewise Kelly MacDonald, who I've seen a lot of things she's been in. And yeah, this is a film that sort of described how the creator wanted to create a book for Christopher Robin, and it kind of led to the sort of this thing where you get so popular and get celebrity status that everything gets to your head and everything, and Christopher Robin never wanted all of that. He just wanted his dad, and it's nice, it's sweet, and all that. Because it's not technically tied to the larger Winnie the Pooh franchise by Disney, it is of course going to be very different and everything. But I thought it was alright, not perfect, but it was alright. So I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Now, since Disney did Winnie the Pooh, the franchise has since gone into public domain, but Disney still own the rights to their version of the franchise. And because it's gone to public domain, this has led to the creation of a slasher-verse sort of franchise, known as which Winnie the Pooh and gang are part of. And yeah, it's kind of weird seeing a horror version of Winnie the Pooh, but it is what it is. And there's 2 of them, with more to follow. So the first one is called Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. So this was released in 2023. It's a British independent slasher film, produced, directed, written, and edited by Reese Frake Waterfield. It's the first installment of the larger Twisted Childhood universe. Great name for a cinematic universe. Obviously a horror interpretation of the books, starring starring Craig David Dorset as the titular character, and Chris Cordial as Piglet, with Amber Dogthorne, Nikolai Leon, Maria Taylor, Natasha Rose Mills, and Danielle Ronald in supported roles. Following Pooh and Piglet, who have become feral murderers as they terrorise a group of young university women, and Christopher Robin himself when he returns to the 100 Acre Wood 5 years after leaving college. So I guess this is technically the Winnie the Pooh characters getting their revenge for Christopher Robin abandoning them many years ago. And it's quite demonic, quite dramatic, and it does sort of have a lot of things that definitely are against the book. But if you're wanting a very different take on Winnie the Pooh, and you're not too bothered about the sort of sweet innocence and so forth from the original books and the Disney franchise, then you're gonna find this okay. It's definitely a really bad film, but laughably bad, and I can't help but enjoy how ridiculously sick, twisted, and so forth it is. I know it's not like the most well-reviewed film on Rotten Tomatoes, but yeah, I just can't help but notice how laughably bad it is. It's laughably bad. So watch it ironically, because you know it's going to be bad. With all how ridiculous and so forth it is. So yeah, I'm just going to give it a 5 out of 10 because I enjoyed how ridiculously stupid and bad and horrific it was, especially with a title especially with the name Blood and Honey, you know. So yeah. So the final thing we're going to talk about today, because there isn't really anything latest that's coming out from Winnie the Pooh as far as I know, because it's only celebrating an anniversary. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to have a new thing come out. But anyway, Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2, or stylized as Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2, but the Roman numerals instead of the number. So this was released in 2024. Once again, a British independent slasher film directed once again by Reese Frake Waterfield, the second installment in the Twisted Childhood universe, and a sequel to the previous film. It's now another horror interpretation, starring Scott Chambers as Christopher Robin and Ryan Olivia as the titular character, with Tallulah Evans, Teresa Barnum, Peter de Souza Freconi, Alec Newman, and Simon Callow in supporting roles. This time it follows Pooh as he embarks on a murderous rampage through Christopher Robin's childhood town to seek revenge on him for revealing his existence to the world. Spoilers if you've not seen the previous film. So this one is let's say better than the original film. It's one of those sequels that is where it's considered a lot better. And to be fair, I think the guy that made the original film probably was not very, let's say, I don't know, he wasn't very equipped with filmmaking. So I don't know. I kind of enjoyed this one a little bit more, but only like a little bit more, because obviously this is still very much a horror take on Winnie the Pooh. And if you like horror versions of childhood things, then you're going to enjoy this. Most people will think it's Winnie Pooh's your childhood's destroyed because of this, and I think that's kind of the point of this twisted childhood universe, because they're just trying to take anything that's now in public domain that Disney created and just try and make a horror version of it. As I understand it, I think there's meant to be like spin-offs as well. So there's going to be one around Peter Pan called Peter Pan's Neverland Nightmare, which I don't think has come out yet. Actually no. Oh, okay, yes, it has come out, so I'll be able to watch that at some point. And then there's another one called Bambi the Reckoning. So yeah, and then coming from that is Pinocchio Unstrung, the Pooniverse Monsters Assemble, which I guess is their version of the Avengers, and Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 3. So yeah, it's all happening with this one. But anyway, going back to Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey 2, an improvement on the previous film, and still very laughably good in a way. So I'm going to give it a slightly higher 6 out of 10. And that's, for now, is it for Winnie the Pooh. As I said, there's going to be a lot of things I did intentionally miss out on because I ran out of time and don't really have much time to look at other things. But yeah, that's what I've got to say about Winnie the Pooh in the celebration of whatever anniversary it's celebrating this year. So fire off in the comments below. Let me know what you think about it, what you like, what you don't like, and also let me know if you want me to check out other Winnie the Pooh stuff, because I'd love to hear what you think. But other than that, thanks so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you can, please. If you are new to the channel, I do vlogs like these every Thursday, and then reviews of the latest things during the weekend, and usually reviewing a lot of things in the lead up to a latest release. Obviously this isn't a latest release, so yep. On Mondays and Tuesdays I do gaming videos, so a gameplay series video, which is part of a series of videos for a long game I'm playing at the moment, also in between 4 different games. Every Wednesday I do a let's play video of a completely random game. Requests are welcome, as are vlogs on all sorts of different topics. I also do game bundle videos, which I class as gameplay compilations, videos with friends, hauls, rants on live, shorts, and loads more. See you in the next one. Peace to you all. And remember, if you're desperate to get honey, maybe don't try and get yourself stuck in a hole. If you want to keep things as they are, maybe just invite the people that you know are not going to damage your property, and do have a sense of spatial awareness compared to some of my friends who don't have much spatial awareness and just throw everything around at them. Yeah, and yeah, other things too, I guess. So yeah, and do read the books, do watch the films, play the games, and etc. And see if you can find some sort of childhood innocence in this. Because remember, even though we may be innocent as children, we grow up being more twisted and so forth. Although I don't think that applies to everybody, but yeah. But anyway, thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Toodles. Don't be